Good morning, Athens. All right. Thank you for having me here today. As Kim mentioned, I'm going to be talking about how to advance and protect democracy in practice through campaigns, through action that can get us outcomes. And to do that, I'm going to be talking about a framework that we've picked up from working on national, state level, and local level campaigns in the United States. And then to illustrate that, I'm going to show you how this works through an active campaign that my organization is running right now behind a piece of bipartisan legislation before the US Congress. As some background, I work for the US presence of Transparency International. We're the oldest and the largest anti-corruption organization in the world. We have chapters in about 120 countries. And basically, we work through research, advocacy, and accountability campaigns to end corruption worldwide. In 2021, my organization helped pass the most important US anti-corruption law in a generation. It essentially ends the ability of corrupt foreign officials around the world to steal money from their people and to move and hide that money into the US financial system using anonymous shell companies. The law basically abolished anonymous shell companies in the United States. Think of all the horrors that were exposed through exposés like the Pandora Papers and the Panama Papers. But writ large, I've been involved in over a dozen successful democracy campaigns, the only campaign finance victory at the US Supreme Court in the last 20 years, and helping to design a ranked choice voting system that the voters of Alaska adopted in 2020. So the framework that I've distilled from these experiences has three pieces. One is to do the hard work of identifying a policy, a reform that is not only impactful, but that is viable. Second is to, from that policy platform, build an ideologically inclusive coalition, harder than you would think. And the third, no need to reinvent the wheel here, is just doing the hard work of using a time-tested, tried and true advocacy toolkit. And I will show some of the things that we use in Congress now. All right, so let's see how this looks in practice. You see the ugly headlines. This is the problem that we are trying to solve. Authoritarian governments around the world, basically, are hiring former high-level US officials and military officers in attempts to grow their geopolitical, military, and economic influence. They are using these folks as hired guns to not only try and influence US policy to their liking, but also to launder their reputations to global audiences. Obviously, this has implications for global democracy, but we consider this to be a double bottom line for democracy because it has implications for American democracy. Imagine the public confidence in the integrity of our institutions when they see their high-level officials cashing out to take these positions, leaving voters and constituents wondering if it was future employment prospects that informed their decisions while they were in office. So, looking at the framework, how do we find a reform that is not only impactful, but viable? What is actually going to make a difference for these problems, but also be politically achievable in a very divisive, polarized political landscape? My philosophy is that it is actually often ideological purity. It is that policy perfection that gets in the way of something being good. We can be skewed by our partisan affinity or our reflexive ideological community that we associate with, as opposed to what is something that can actually get over the finish line. So here is our policy. Our bill would basically impose a lifetime ban on the top 2 senior-most officials for every US government department, agency, writ large, the Treasury Department, State Department, the Department of Justice, across the board, a lifetime ban on them lobbying, aiding, advising any foreign government, any foreign governing party, or any entity, a company, et cetera, that is majority owned or controlled by a foreign government or foreign political party. And for every senior level official across the government, so that is everyone who is subject to basically Senate appointment, every ambassador, for example, every department head, every bureau chief, they will now have a 3-year cooling off period after they leave government service before they can do the same. Those who break the law will face a very serious civil penalty, $50,000, and can face 1 to 5 years in prison. So, the way that we looked at this, how to address the problem, is this impactful? It addresses each of the situations that I described that are up here on the screen. And more importantly, it breaks that fundamental calculus and incentive system behind the revolving door. It's very difficult to have officials that have been out of office for 3 years exert the same level of influence and access. But it is also viable, and this is really the difficult part. There is a strong impulse for folks to want to, for example, punish the current administration or the current office holders by making a case and having longer penalties, to make this a lifetime ban on every official to try and drum up the case for why this is necessary, to have longer prison sentences or higher fines because they want to be able to use the current administration as an example of the problem. Also, we're only talking here about lobbying. We're trying to tailor it to the exact problem that we have a record for. We're not talking about somebody going to work for a foreign university or a foreign company or to help a foreign company make money in the United States. We are talking about officials who are being hired by foreign governments with the intent to influence US policy. And so finding that balance is often very difficult. And it feeds into the second part of the framework, which is building an ideologically inclusive coalition. In 2021, when we passed the law abolishing anonymous shell companies, we were able to bring together a pretty remarkable group of constituencies. We had, for example, the US Chamber of Commerce, the largest business association in the world, and the AFL-CIO, the largest union in the United States. We had the NAACP and the National Fraternal Order of Police. We had Friends of the Earth and ExxonMobil all able to get behind this policy. We had the Trump administration, the Trump Treasury Department, and Representative Carolyn Maloney, who was then chairing the House Oversight Committee investigating the Trump administration. The value of this is that even if you have an ambitious and scrappy transparency organization like mine, it's not a fair fight to go up against the entire business community or the entire national security community. That's just pure basic politics. And so you've got to do the hard work of looking at ways to find strange bedfellows and divide those otherwise general communities to find your base of support. And oftentimes, it's challenging, but just to get out of your ideologically reflexive community, the people that you happen to have worked with or associated yourself with. Our coalition now behind this reform reflects much of that. We have one of the most conservative members in the Senate from Texas as our lead sponsor, and one of the most progressive senators from Vermont as our co-lead for this campaign. And then third, well, that's a charming guy up there. Third is really just to apply those tried and true advocacy tools that campaigns have been using throughout history to win democracy reforms. We don't need to reinvent the wheel here, right? We've got fact sheets that tell the story of the problem, that give it some geographic diversity depending on which members of Congress care about which parts of the world. We have letters of support that we get from different civil society organizations, different industries, different constituencies to show that there is robust support for this. We testify in Congress to make the case directly to folks and build coalitions on the Hill. And then we work hard to build a narrative behind this. And often it's strength in numbers, but it's strength and diversity of perspectives. Media like to hear why different organizations care about different issues. They think it is a hook to hear why a conservative national security organization and a very liberal, good government organization are teaming up on a piece of legislation. So these are simply some of the tools that we use. You leverage these tools, you use them in emails and outreach and tweets, in interactions with government officials directly. There is real strength in both numbers. There is real strength and diversity here, just as in any democracy. We are in an idyllic setting. I am grateful to be here, but I hope that when we all go home to our respective countries, we get back to rolling up our sleeves, we get back into the trenches, we get back to work to do the hard work for democracy. And I'm here to help if I can. Please reach out.